All right, call this, it's 6 p.m., call the meeting to order. You join us and stand for prayer and the pledge.
Oh, it's on.
Please bow your heads and pray with me. Lord, we come before you this evening, thanking you for this beautiful day you've given us, and we thank you for all the blessings that you give us. We ask that you watch over our meeting and guide our hearts and minds to make decisions in the best interest of our members this evening. We ask that you watch over and protect our military men and women, our first responders, and our healthcare workers, all those that work to keep us safe and free and healthy every day. And lastly, Lord, we ask for peace in our world today. When there's conflict and division between countries, we ask that you guide their hearts and minds to work toward peace. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Director Theo on the pledge.
Ladies and gentlemen, please face the flag. Repeat after me. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a quorum, all 7 are present. There will be audio and video recorders in use. And for members, if you'd like to speak at the end for open forum, if you can sign in at the back there, please, as you came in. So approval of minutes and transcripts. So there are some amendments to the packet that was sent out in your little manila folder there. So the amendments are to the December 21st special meeting minutes and transcripts and the regular meeting minutes and transcripts. And you should have an attachment from Mr. Dunaway as to those amendments. I'll entertain a motion. Yes, sir.
I make a motion to approve December 21st, 2021. Special meeting minutes and transcripts, December 21st, 2021. Regular meeting minutes and transcripts, January 20th, 2022. Special board reorganization meeting minutes with changes.
Okay. And I understood. I'm sorry? Second, okay. And Director Theo was not here for the 21st, so
I would request that you approve it as 2 separate items, the December minutes and one and the other, because I will abstain from December. Because I was not here.
Okay, you need what now?
To amend your
it just needs an
Make your
amendment.
motion to the
Just the
December,
December 21st.
December special and regular as one separate vote, and then the January is another vote, because I was not here for December, so I'm going to abstain from the December.
Oh, all of December? Okay, I got it. I'm with you. All right, so I'd amend my motion to approval of December special meeting minute and December regular meeting minutes and transcripts with changes.
Okay, amended his motion. Second. Still second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
I abstain.
And then I'll make a motion to approve the January 20th, 2022 special board reorganization meeting minutes.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, approval of membership. So for December, we have 274 new members, 268 cancels and 1 transfer. And then since we didn't have a regular meeting in December, we have 255 for January, 239 canceled and 1 transfer.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Are those the ones that I signed? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Can
No one-
can I interject one thing back at the minutes? I meant to put this in there. I would like to propose, I've discussed it with the legal authority. In the past, we've always waited to approve the January annual meeting minutes the following year. I think that's too long to wait to approve them, so I would like to make a motion that we approve them at the next available board meeting in the future, that we in January's annual meeting minutes will be approved by the board in February as opposed to waiting till the next year.
Okay. Wilden,
I'll second it for discussion.
okay, second for discussion. Thank you, Derek. I guess I thought the bylaw said it had to be, at the annual meeting minutes were approved at the annual meeting, and that only happens once a year. Mr. Dunaway, are we okay if we change this, or what are we looking for?
Yes, sir. Your bylaws don't dictate when you approve the minutes of the annual meeting, and you're the board, so it's not your members who are approving the minutes, and it's your board. And so anytime your board is properly convened, it can properly do business, including approving its minutes.
Okay, go ahead, Joe.
But would that be a different type of board, whereas the meeting we're at tonight is a board of directors meeting, whereas the annual meeting in January is a meeting of the members?
There is a difference, that's correct. But your minutes are not approved by your members. Your minutes are approved by your board of directors. That has always been the case, even at the annual meeting. Your members don't approve the minutes, the board of directors do.
I guess my question's not about the members per se, it's about the type of board meeting that's convened. In other words, this is not a meeting of the members. And we would be approving the minutes of a meeting of the members outside of one of those board meetings.
That would be correct. And again, your members have never approved your minutes, whether they're at an annual, and when they're only convened at an annual meeting. So they're not the ones approving the minutes. The board is approving the minutes. So whenever the board is properly convened as a board, it can make board action, including approving minutes of annual board meetings.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
So, Will, we've never done business in January annual meetings because it's been on the assumption that it's a special meeting, right? And so, kind of like Bill is alluding to, we wait an entire year to approve these minutes. So what we're saying is we're going to approve the December meeting minutes just like in the January meeting. And if we needed to do board business, we would also be allowed to do that at that time? In January?
Yeah, at your annual meeting, you can do actions other than just your annual vote.
Okay.
It's only at the annual meeting can you do the voting for your directors.
Okay.
And in the past, we've only had that one item on the agenda. That is, we're going to hold the annual meeting to conduct the annual election of board members. So you've kept that distinct. You've done that. There's no requirement that you do it that way. Yeah, it's just the way you've done it.
Okay.
But with regards to the minutes of that annual meeting, the members are not the ones who approve it. It's the board of directors. Again, so there is no reason other than it's the way you have done it in the past that you would wait a year for your board of directors to approve the minutes of your annual meeting, especially when the only thing that occurred at your annual meeting is the voting of directors.
So, Mr. Dwayne, what I really hear you saying is we're certainly within the board's right to do this. We just never done it.
It is absolutely a proper motion and a proper action.
Mark, any thoughts?
My thoughts are that I don't think we have those in front of us to approve tonight
No,
anyway.
no,
So,
not that I did it.
you know, we could put it on next month's agenda, and that'll give everybody a chance to maybe look back through and make sure there's nothing we're missing on this. But I don't have a problem with us doing it. In fact, it's always kind of bothered me. We have to try to remember what happened a year ago, you know.
And it may not even be the same.
It's not the
Members on
same,
the board.
usually isn't the same board members. So I'd like to, if we can verify that it's, you know, it's in line with our bylaws, it doesn't cross any lines, I'd like to maybe table it and put it on the agenda for next month.
For this year, and then the subsequent years we'll do it again.
Right, exactly.
Well, we've had a motion and a second for discussion, obviously, to do it.
The
Any
motion
thoughts?
was to do it in February going forward, I thought.
To approve, it. Instead of waiting a year to approve, we'd be approving them at this meeting next year.
So I'm with Mark, we shouldn't approve them now if we don't have them in front of us.
I know.
For this 1 year, we're gonna do them next month.
That's good by me.
But the motion was that we, going forward, approve them at the February meeting. We can't really do that tonight, right? Because we don't have them in front of us to do.
Okay, I'll amend my motion to going forward, that we do it in the February meeting, and for this particular year, we do them next month in the March meeting.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay. James, any thoughts? Any other discussion?
Yes, just to make sure, just to reiterate my point. The January meeting it's not just the annual meeting. It's the meeting of the members, which is specifically different than than a regular meeting of the board of directors. So we would not be in a meeting of the members when we are approving the minutes of a meeting of the members. And this is okay?
What I hear legal guide counsel saying is that is a true statement.
Okay.
Is it okay for the directors to make that?
Okay,
If the members
So-
don't approve, we do.
okay.
Board does.
Yes, but the members not approving of it don't have anything to do with it.
Agreed.
The thing that has something to do with it is the fact that it's a different kind of board, it's a different board meeting. Not, just a different type of board meeting, it was my concern. So,
And I kind of share that concern because the bylaws are real specific about the types of board meetings you have. But I also can see Will's point that, you know, if there's not any reason why our board of directors shouldn't approve the minutes of that meeting sooner than a year from now, then
Oh, yeah.
why don't we go ahead and do it?
I know, we've been doing it for 50 years,
Yeah.
2 years like that.
All right, so the motion was to, going forward, annual meeting minutes would be looked at for approval in February, but because we're already in February for this year, it'll be March. That was your motion and second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Good discussion. All right, new
Real quick,
business. Say again?
Real quick, on the, if we're gonna do that one, we talked about doing the, adding the name to the Sunbiz, the president of the company for the businesses, to be able to use their votes at the proxies. Instead of.
That's coming.
Okay, it is on here?
Yep.
I didn't see it on there.
You good with that, James? Okay. New business, finance.
See it on there?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. I've asked Director Campbell, Director of Finance, to talk briefly about the December, January.
Thank you so much. Good evening. December notes for following the bar, the main drivers in the income statement were, due to timing issues, we did not have a health benefit charge in November, so it was booked in December, so there were 2 months, 2 months. Booked in December, which drove some of the income down. We did have a $25,000 one-time fee for the unrestricted funding. Currently, this time there's zero drawn down in that line. And there were some pre-purchases for the office furniture and those sort of things for the new construction. We ended up December down quite a bit, but year to date, it's rather flat. Any questions on December? January drivers, wastewater and wastewater taps down, they're also down in 2021. Water sales were actually up against budget, and they were up also compared to 2021. We did have a payroll reemployment tax bill in January, so that froze sort of the inertial mass between salaries going down and payroll taxes went up. We had purchased 4 respirators and wash stations, look under safety equipment, you see some charges there that were a little higher than normal. The major driver this month was that, as a report of technical reporting issues, we did not have the Fairpoint billing number to book in this month. So, it will be booked into February, so we have 2 in February, and 1 in January. That's on the order of $132,000, and we're not too excited about the income line. And, we have some reclasses and some general
leisure cleanup that'll happen, also in this month, small items, $6,000-7,000. Other than that, one that on a net basis, if I take into account fair going about 24,000, but on the net income statement, it'll show the 115. Any questions?
Board, any questions?
You want me to give a quick
Now-
update?
Yeah, now my understanding after the training at the end of the month is what we see here in our normal packet will change just a bit.
Our recommendation to the board will be after during the board training, we will transition to the appropriate documentation for the monthly financials,
Okay,
and that'll be discussed during the meeting.
okay. And yeah, Mike, I'd entertain a motion to, or whatever you were going to say. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
so I was just on the financial side, so Director Thiel, Director Lynchard, and myself, we met with the CEO and staff to go over financials, which we do every month. So as Ty had mentioned, December was down, but mostly due to billing timing when we paid the November and December insurances in December. For 2021, the unaudited financials show we had a positive net income of $14,000 for the year, but I guess you'll go over that as well. And then for the January 2022, water sales were up compared to 2021, but the taps were down. And overall, it was a good month. So Director Thiel or Director Lynchard, do you have anything to add?
No,
Mr. President, I'm done with my presentation.
Okay.
I move to approve the December and January 2021 for December 2021. January 2022, isn't it? Financial
It's
statement.
2022.
Second.
Good catch. First and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Director Thiel, Financial Committee updates.
Okay, we did a meeting, special meeting was open to the public on the Eglin project, so Director Lyncher, do you have anything else to add?
No, not at all at this time. We're just
Okay.
progressing.
Capital improvements, Director Linnell,
No, just starting the new year.
okay? And the budget we've already talked about, so that concludes the Finance Committee update.
Almost painless.
I would like to say one other thing. We've had interest by other directors at these updates. Or at the subcommittee hearings, we have myself as the secretary treasurer and then the principal as attendees. We've had some interest by other directors to attend. Where we run into the thing is if we have more than one other director attend, we have more than a quorum, and then it has to be an open meeting notice to the public. So I would like to propose that if we have other interest, that they get with myself, or I guess myself would be the POC, and then we'll play it by ear as to who we can allow to attend at any particular meeting, with the exception of that being the Eglin project, where Director Lynchard is the only one allowed to attend.
Sounds good.
Okay. I was going to talk some about that during our board training, but okay. Thank you. All right. Item 3, Finance Review of 2021 Year-to-Date Unaudited Financials.
We showed a net income of about $14,000. Note that is unaudited, which means that the audit begins the 21st of February through the 28th, and there'll be, of course, be time after that for the public. I'm sure there will be some adjustments due to 2021, 2022 timings possibly. Depreciation numbers will be recomputed against, completed CIP projects and so forth. I envision and told my audit that the same sequence and timing should proceed as we move into the March, April, I believe, board meetings.
Okay. Any discussion from the board? I'll entertain a motion to approve the 2021 year-to-dates. Unaudited, sorry. Unaudited financial statements.
Motion to approve the 2021 year-to-date unaudited financial statements.
Thank you,
Second.
Mike. Thank you, Bill.
Second.
Thank you, Bill. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Projected pension benefit obligations. Dr. Dallas. turning it off on.
Pension plan, had the freezing at the year end of salary increases, in fact, the projected liability, it was quite substantive in terms of its reduction of the unfunded liability. We are much closer to, finishing the census, which means that we have to re-update all the information. It'll be, it has been sent to the actuary, they will recompute the pension benefit obligation. There should be a material decrease in the obligation on an annual basis. There are a lot of moving parts, which I covered, probably very boring length to the finance members over in attendance. As we know more from the actuary, we will provide the board with the actual accrual that will be created. And we can also furnish you with the actual liability moves when the models are completed.
And what we wanted to try to do in this discussion was the very first page of this section, forward to your information. We wanted to give the board the timeline for those changes because the board is used to approving the pension obligation payment every February. That's not going to occur, and that's why Pam will walk through this timeline going to have a copy.
And the main points on that timeline are you see that there'll be a PB or pension benefit obligation payment made early in the year, and at the end of the year in October, there's the pension guarantee benefit PGBC, which changes this acronym occasionally. Will be at the end of the year. In front of you though is the pretty much wrote timing of how the pension obligation and the pension fund defined benefit pension plan will proceed for the year.
Board, any questions? I think it's a good news story either way, right?
It is.
Oh, it is, very much.
Right, thanks for that information. All right, now the fun part. We have a presentation on fine particle sediment effects. Dr. Petey, do you want to?
Well, what I'd
Kick
like
us
to
off?
do is I'm going to ask the manager of the wastewater treatment plant, who's
Okay.
been with this young man for a while, make the introduction to Mr. Gleisner.
Mr. Lay.
I'd like to introduce to you Elijah Drake. He is a student for Holland Bar Middle School. Sometime over earlier this year, his uncle called us and said he had a nephew that was interested in trying to do some sedimentation studies for a science fair project, and one that could use the wastewater plant lab and use the solid dirt at the wastewater plant. So, naturally, we obliged, and so everybody, Elijah Drake. Let him explain everything to you what he's done with his science fair project, and take it away.
I'm Elijah Drake, and I did my science fair project on wastewater treatment, and my title was Settling Waters. My question was, can wastewater be turned into safe drinking water? And the end answer is yes. But I did 3 different tests. My first test was a settleability test, and it's where you take 1,000 milliliters of wastewater. I'd use 2 to get more consistent results. And you take 1,000 milliliters of wastewater and you record how much it settled over 5-minute intervals. I went all the way up to 60 minutes, and the test is right over here. And for my second test, I did an initial dosage test, which is where we put a little bit of flocculant inside of a 250 milliliter bottle of wastewater, or not bottle, of container of wastewater. And for test 1, we put 3 milliliters of wastewater, or of flocculant inside of the wastewater, and it settled to about 90 milliliters. For test 2, we put 5 milliliters of flocculant inside the 250 milliliter container, and it settled to 80 milliliters. And then for test 3, we put 7 milliliters of flocculant in the 250 milliliter container, and it settled to about 60 milliliters. And for my final dosage test, which is right here, I did we put more flocculant inside of the 250 milliliter containers of wastewater. For test 1, we put 20 milliliters of flocculant inside of it, and it made a ball about 3.8 centimeters wide. for test two, we put 40 milliliters of flocculant, and it made the wastewater into a ball about 3.2 centimeters wide. And then for test three, we put 60 milliliters, and it made a ball around 3.8 centimeters wide. And for the final test, we put 80 milliliters in the wastewater, and it made a ball about 3.8 centimeters wide.
Would like to let everybody know, first of all, I bring, lead operator Bobby Nelson to the plant up here. Bobby was actually one of the, key people that were in helping Elijah with this project. Bobby and our lab technician is Ed LeComp at the wastewater plant. And what we found really, really cool for Elijah on this project is this is actually the test that the operators and the lab technicians run at the plant on a daily basis to maintain the clarity of our water, see what our solids are in the plant, and basically how we do the process of the wastewater treatment. So it's really cool. We've never had a scientific project done at wastewater treatment that we're aware of.
So he could do your job and replace you then, right?
Well, that's what we're training you for. I tell you, my future operator. We thought it really cool. I'd like Elijah to tell everybody, how far did you get in your science fair?
Got second place in the region.
In regionals?
Wow.
I would ask if the board has any questions for this young man, what he learned through the process of those kind of things.
Yeah, I think Mr. Kennedy had one.
Yeah, that was gonna be my very first off, I applaud you on double checking our staff for it. And, so what did you find was the most interesting part of your whole project? Did you find something that you learned that you didn't know?
Most of it I didn't know about. I thought you just flushed the toilet and the water came back.
So did all the board members.
That's how it works?
One thing he did learn was how very smart everybody is down at the wastewater treatment plant. When he told us.
So there's a lot to the wastewater treatment. It's not just flush the toilet and it just goes away, right?
It's a complicated process.
Excellent.
Gentlemen, any other questions? Well, what I would like to do is, we do have an offer of support for this young man and the progress that he's made today and going forward, because he has other things that he's working on. And this is one of the things that he's doing, which showcases the work that we do for our members. I would say that I'm very proud to have met his grandparents and his parents. Great job. The fact that you found interest in this process, which is very important, right? Because we can't just pump water. You got to do something with that water and do it safely and feasibly, right? But we have something for you, and what I would ask is, the company, Volume of Our Water, would like to make this offering to you to cover the cost of what you've done to date, and then going forward, the other process. What I'm going to ask is, if you don't mind, I'm going to get all the board members to come up and sign this, and Chris and the president to sign it. But while I'm signing, we're going to get the president to give you a little something.
It's almost like that college day signing for sports, but a lot more important what you do, I'll tell you, so. You're hired. I'm very impressed, thank you very much, credit to you folks there, so. You can't wear two at the same time unless you wear one backwards. Welcome.
Everybody to sign it, and then we'll get a picture with your parents and grandparents. Come up and do this big check. And then we have. Or you can't see that picture and say it's not. Well, he was talking so nice about the process.
No, it's good clarification. The longer you wait, the more it says. That's right. Like that. The more you wait, the longer it sells.
Whatever that is, Mr. President. If the board will again take some pictures with this young man and his family. Get started on this process. Yeah, that's good. Will? And then where's the parent? Okay.
How you represent?
Yeah. I would have put mine on, but I'm listening here.
Alright, shift to the right, perfect, and perfect, we're good. Well, we're gonna get one with the board and then we'll get one with parents, so give me 2 seconds. Perfect, okay, mom and dad.
We're good, we all do.
Alright, ready? 1, 2. Got it.
Now, we just asked for if the president and the young man and his grandparents and parents. Yeah.
Right, a reference.
I didn't say it.
Yeah, you better watch out, Chris. He's gonna be taking your job.
Training.
Classmates are gonna say when you find a drink, they'll wait.
Yeah. That's right.
Great, alright.
All right. Congratulations again. Oh, you get to keep this.
Mr. President, I would say that we would hope that this young man would walk.
Baby. There you go.
My chin, right up, good. One. Proud. Okay.
I would hope, Mr. Elijah, that when you're at the appropriate grade and age, that you will come and apply for our apprentice program. We'd like to have you, okay? Well done.
I'd like to know what mom and dad's reaction was when you told them they could drink the treated wastewater.
He really enjoyed that. Thank you guys a lot.
The joke was on there, we didn't tell them what it was, after they drank.
That's the good stuff.
That was great stuff.
All right, back to business. Holly Navarre Water System Board election. We have a follow-up canvassing board report. Dr. Peavy, Mr. Dunaway.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. As the board remembers, with the report of the canvassing board, one of the matters that we wanted to bring back to you to ask if you wanted to tweak or reconsider your policy with regards to commercial accounts and how those accounts are voted on election day. Recall that you have members your members consist of both residential accounts and also business accounts. Businesses, of course, are entities that cannot vote except through their properly and duly authorized persons. And so it's that process that those who are running our election need to know. In your package, and as best that as staff could tell, it has been your policy since at least the early 2000s. You've had a process in place which is best explained by the important notice that is on the second page of the notice that you send out. And it tells your members who are commercial members that in order for them to vote on election day, they must provide fill out the form that authorizes who it is who's going to be voting that member and provide it to the essentially customer service admin by a date certain. We had 6 accounts who followed that important notice process, and they voted doing that. But we had 4 that commercial accounts that ended up getting turned away because they had not followed that process, and according to your policy, they were not allowed to vote. There are options that you have. We want to hear from you as to how you want us to draft a policy if a new policy is something that you want, how you want to do it, and what you think it ought to contain. I note that there are a couple of options. One, we can do nothing and just follow the policy that you have there with the advance notice. The second one is, we could in fact go, because FunBiz provides a process by which we can look up a company. Customer service could add to the account the name that appears on SunBiz for each commercial account. That would be fairly involved, and I'm not certain that that's what customer service wants as their first option, but it is an option. The other option we could go would be simply to remove the advance notice requirement. That is, take off the important note on the thing and just have whoever is voting that business account, when they arrive at the polls, have that form, turn it in, then admin could quickly verify that, this company is a member, they are set, and now we have the form, and it lists the person who's there to vote, and they can vote. So I put it to you. We're here to, take notes, answer any questions, draft a policy and bring it back to you. Leave it the way it is, whatever the pleasure is of the board.
Okay. Obviously, it was put in place for a reason, but I don't think anybody at this table knows that reason about why. And James had a point about it, about the single owner. So I guess, board, I was kind of looking to the administration on the day and the encumbrance of the staff, but board, anybody? James?
I just think it's only fair if we're gonna give the customers, which a commercial account is a customer, the opportunity to vote without him having to look for a notice in the mail, look for something coming to him, and then him not meeting the criteria of what we've set forth. I mean, if that person came in and set the account up, either that needs to be the name on the account, or we need to go to SunBiz and use the president of that account.
You're kind of talking as a one or two person business.
It should only be one person. I mean, if it's the
Yeah.
person who opened up the account,
Got it.
and he's the member who came in and paid the $5, then he should have the right to vote, just like any other person who comes in and votes. That name goes underneath the business name. I mean, basically, that's how we've done it since we've started.
Okay, and I know it. Go ahead.
Would you allow him to delegate that to somebody with a written letter signed by him or her?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
I agree.
Darryl?
Okay, here's what I personally would think would work. Whoever is on the account can vote for the corporation.
Correct.
Because having staff go back through SunBiz just because somebody might vote is gonna just be a pain. But if you were to do, like you had mentioned at the previous meeting, just have an addendum of that customer's name or the authorized representative's name on the account, on the ballot sheets, then that person could vote. Now, if the corporation wanted someone else to vote, even if that person were the actual person on SunBiz, then they would need to file a proxy or some authorization letter, so it doesn't interfere with staff.
Right, and I agree with that 100%. Would that be something that when they come in and open up the account going forward, you just put that on the account, that you're gonna have, your vote is gonna be on the proxy?
As far as, in my situation, or in what I'm talking about, you wouldn't worry about that.
Well, I'm
It
saying
would just be-
as long as if they assign that proxy to someone else, it needs to be in a letter at the beginning of each year, needs to be filed.
I think the issue right now, Dr. Peavy, if I understand it, is that person's name is not necessarily on the account. So all the staff
That's
sees
correct.
is ABC Company.
You were correct.
So at some point, we'd have to get to that end game. And I agree, that's the thing. If it's my
Well, there's-
company and I want to vote and,
Well, from what I understand, there's 511 commercial accounts.
okay,
So pulling up 500 commercial accounts, finding out who opened the account, it's only gonna be a one-time deal. And that person is the person that goes on the sheet.
Director Kennedy.
So, I mean, for me, it's the validation, right? I mean, I am not in favor of adding any more overhead to the election process for staff. So, you know, I kind of, as Director Blanchard had mentioned, if your name's on the account, okay, I get that, but I am not in favor of adding any other workload that they'll have to do. No lookup for SunBiz. And again, in theory, what we have already, it's clearly, if you want to move things around on the document, that's fine, but it states real there, very important. If you are going to vote, you need to follow this process. So we already do have a process in place that tells them what to do. You know, I get that a lot of people don't want to burden someone with having to follow the rules or know the rules, but that's the whole point of elections is you need to be pretty invested, you know? If you're gonna go vote, then you need to know. So,
But going forward, just like you said, Mike, going forward, the same concept is if that person is voting for his company to have the right to vote, he's paying the bills, he's doing the things that need to be done, he shouldn't have to come back and file additional paperwork to prove that's his business when he's paying the bill.
Or she.
I think
Or
he
she,
should-
he or
yeah.
she should not have to come and prove to this board that they are the operating business and the operating name to that corporation. It's already been filed. He's getting the money taken out of his or her checking account. Why do we have to make him, you're talking about burdening us, we are burdening the customer by making him come prove to us who he is. Where's the burden? The burden ain't on him, it's the burden's on us.
that's the
Last I checked.
validation. And for me, that's the validation. Kind of like when we come in and we actually vote, we show an ID and, you know, Tappy makes sure that we're validated to be the right person.
It's a single line item that's gonna go on the ballot sheet. It's gonna say our name or their name or whoever's name on that sheet, that they are the legalized owner of that company or the legalized person that has the right to vote. It's
Right.
not like we're adding something different.
Go ahead.
I'll go back and say that I still think it needs to be whoever the authorized contact on the account is.
Yeah, that's fine.
In our group, and not necessarily the owner, because I've got, I personally got taps in a corporation that I own that are in that someone else pays the bill, so their name is on the account. I wouldn't expect staff to come out and have to look up SunBiz if I wanted to
No.
vote that corporation every year. So I think that as long as their name's on there, I'm good with it. If their name's not on there, maybe we should maybe promote it a little bit to tell people to fix that before the end of the year, before the next election cycle. So we don't have to worry about it.
We should be able to get a proxy.
Does that make sense?
So are you saying that instead of them at the end of the year telling us who's going to vote next year, whoever's name is on the account, that's who we'll accept a vote from and nobody else?
Unless they
No,
designated the proxy.
No, yeah, actually, we're talking about
They
two
designate
different.
proxy in
yeah.
writing.
We're talking about two different things. One is the proxy or the absentee ballot, which must be requested in writing.
Right.
The other one that we're talking about is actual day of election voting, coming down here and voting. If your name's on that sheet of paper or on that account, then you could vote. Otherwise, you can't.
Right. It would really only affect companies that don't have your name on it,
That's right.
right?
There's somebody that didn't elect a proxy or do an absentee ballot.
But if you have a company and we look it up and your name is on that account, your name is on that account, then.
And I think that's
You can
the
vote.
issue staff is telling us, that name necessarily isn't on the account, so they don't know that.
That's correct.
There has to be a financial responsibility on that account before it's open.
Yeah.
And that's kind of that was what I was gonna bring up, board members, is that either way you go, you're gonna have a situation that's, you know, that's gonna come up. So for instance, with the idea of whomever is on the account, the name on the account gets to vote. Again, staff has had situations in which, you know, we got called and we verified it. It's in fact the owner of the company, but the, grounds maintenance, is the guy is the person who's on the account because he takes care of paying the water bill, running the sprinkler system, da, 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 da. And so he's on the account. So it's gonna be an education either way. We write the policy, there'll be some education, whether it's you authorize the person who's on the account gets to vote, or whether you authorize they can turn in the form that we asked for before the election on the day of the election, and then we just have to do more verifying on that. Either way, we'll have some, educating to do. It's whatever you want to do and what you think to be the least burden on those. Again, I think it's a few number over 500 commercial accounts, but it is true that the majority of those are going to be, small businesses where it's likely that the person paying the bill is likely going to be on the account. We can do some verification on that as we put together the policy and let you know.
Right. My question is, when you're talking about verifying the account, are we talking about verifying it on Sundays?
No,
Because we don't have
no.
owners on our account, so we would have to go through every year because unfortunately, even our residential customers, if their phone number changes, sometimes their address changes, they forget to let us know that. So if they're a corporation or a company that elects a president and a vice president, similar to what Holly Water does annually, we would have to review all 500 commercial accounts before the election, before the day of voting anyway, to make sure, to verify that nothing has changed, that the owner hasn't changed or the president hasn't changed. And right. And because corporations have to submit their reports annually, but not all at the same time, it's not like something that we can plan for. We would actually have to do it like 2 or 3 days before the election in order to verify and put that in on all 500 commercial accounts.
Okay, so what I would say in response to what you said, when we come in as a business, we come in, we set up our company and we set up our account. We come in and set our account up. We put a single line item on there that basically says, so-and-so will be the one who receives the vote for the proxy, or their name will be on the thing, unless otherwise changed by July 1st. If they don't do it by July 1st, it's on the paperwork, they've signed it, they've read it. Going forward after July 1st, it's on the ballot.
But it's not on there now. That's,
It is not.
so.
And keep in mind that we had out of 500 commercial accounts.
With the correct process.
Right. Well, there were only 10 that came in to vote. So it may be easier to look at another way to process that, whether it's the day of the election, or if you want to set it so that it's verified before the day of the election, if we have an idea of who wants to come in and vote. It's probably easier to verify it the day of the election, whether we have them bring it in on their letterhead and we pull it up on Sundays, than it is for staff to go through 500 accounts that really only affected about 10.
So what I hear you saying is the day of the election, maybe but I'm with Director Kennedy, there's got to be some personal responsibility, and you saw what it was 6 weeks, 8 weeks, it was probably 3 months out, and I agree kind of maybe moving up in bold, red, whatever, and that, so Mike, you had some other comments?
No, sir, I was just gonna make a motion that, did you wanna say something before?
Yeah, I do. Okay. I want to go back to our bylaws, and what do our bylaws say about who our members are and who gets to vote? And I've always had a problem with someone that has multiple businesses, multiple taps, getting more than one vote. I think at one time, our system did not allow that. It was specifically, only one vote per member, per person that comes in. And what our bylaw says is the holders of membership certificates of this corporation are its members. Any person having reasonable accessibility to the source of and who is in need of services provided by the water system or other services operated by the corporation and who receive the approval of the board of directors may be admitted to membership. A person may be admitted to membership upon subscribing for or otherwise acquiring a membership certificate and by signing such agreements for the purchase of water as may be provided and directed by the corporation. And then further down, it says, at any meeting of the members of the corporation, each member shall be entitled to one vote only, regardless of the number of certificates of membership held, provided the members in good standing for all certificates held. So the intent of our original founders and the people that wrote this bylaws is that a person is the holder of a membership certificate, not a corporation, and that they only get one vote. They don't get multiple votes because they own multiple business. I think we need to look at that.
No, and I
we need to
agree.
change that
I agree.
because it hasn't been followed.
Well, I agree, but I don't think that's not necessarily what we're talking about, giving them a second vote, right? I mean, they once.
We're talking about changing our procedures, and our procedures has been allowing more than individual people to get more than one vote because they have more than one.
So you're saying that if
certificate.
you have a company, you shouldn't be.
You are a person who holds a member certificate. You don't get more than one vote because you hold multiple certificates.
I'd have to go to legal about whether a person is a company in LLC and all that stuff, so.
It says the members are the certificate holders are the members. Regardless of how many taps you have in your personal name, you only have one membership certificate. Just like with a corporation, you can have 100 taps, but it's only going to have one membership certificate.
Right.
So the bylaws say that corporation is a member and gets a vote.
It's the person who holds the member certificate.
No, the
for that
corporation holds the membership certificate.
I'm gonna
Well,
go to our
If
legal
that's
counsel.
not,
who
if
is-
that's not the case, Mark, then why would I buy a $5 membership if I'm only gonna get, I'm considered only one person? Why charge me every single time? If I'm having to buy a $5 membership is what you're buying every time you come into this business. You buy a $5 membership.
Yeah, so
I don't know about whether they charge you more than one membership fee.
They charge you more than one membership fee
Well,
every time.
What I'm
it's-
saying is
Let's let our legal counsel earn his money. Thank you. Counsel?
okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So it is not, and I believe that Director Miller was reading from Article 5, Section 1, is that
Yes,
correct?
that's correct.
So members are, a corporation is a member of the water, of the company if it has an account. That is under the membership. I don't believe that the interpretation, I know the interpretation has never been that a corporation can only, a person who owns more than one corporation can only vote once. A corporation can vote its membership because a corporation can be a member. What has been confusing and what the bylaws are clear is that a person, let's say John Doe, owns 4 homes, let's say they're rental homes, but he owns them with his wife in his own name, not in an LLC. He has 4 water taps, but he can only vote once. They can only vote once. We know that. So if he were to put each of those homes in a separate LLC, Airbnb 1, Airbnb 2, Airbnb 3, for instance, he would then have 4 memberships.
But he's the holder of 4 membership certificates, It's a person that holds that membership certificate. The first sentence is, the holders of membership certificates are its members. The holders of that certificate. So a corporation can't hold something. Only a person can hold something. That's my point. No one should get more than one vote in our election, regardless of the number of taps they have, because it says that in Section 3 of Article 5.
Isn't there something that also says on the member certificates that was counter to that, or would that? I don't.
I think and I think the issue is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we actually issue member certificates.
We do.
We
We do now, we didn't for years.
No, we,
So a membership certificate and a member are really two different things.
Okay.
You can be a holder of membership. You could have, for instance, 5 houses where you have membership certificates because you have a service set up in your name. But if you've only paid one membership fee, we'd only charge you one membership fee. So you would only have one vote as one member, even though you have 5 certificates. Now, if you're a business holder and you set it up with different tax IDs, each time you set up a business with a new tax ID, you're going to pay that $5 membership fee.
Yeah.
And that would entitle you to more than one vote because you have 4 to different businesses, but they have tax IDs, and we would collect a membership fee for each one that you set up in a different tax ID. Now, if you have 2 businesses and you use the same tax ID number, we wouldn't charge you an additional membership fee. Those businesses would hold separate membership certificates, but they would only be entitled to one vote.
So to read the bylaws as Director Miller is indicating, to read that first sentence, the holders of membership certificates of this corporation are its members, would be a fundamental change in the way the water board operates, because it would be a fundamental change of holding that one person who owned separate businesses could not vote those businesses separately, which is the case today, because we charge them and we make them members, because they're separate entities, they're separate legal entities. So the distinction legally has always been that while I might hold the membership for 3 separate LLCs, I'm doing so as a legal fiction. I'm holding those 4 companies' membership, and I get to vote those 4 companies' membership. I do not get to do so if I simply own 4 homes that I buy water on, and I have
And how is that fair, though? You know, and how is that in line with what our original bylaws talked about? And as recently as like 15 years ago, they did not let business owners vote more than once, because it says in there, you know, you only get one vote regardless of the number of membership certificates you hold.
If I
Go ahead, Mike.
I had a question.
Mike?
Thank you. So if I understand it right, corporate is basically on tax ID. Residential is based on your house.
Right, it's going to be attached to your name, and we do collect driver's license, so.
And so in this last election, if you were a corporate, you needed to follow our process down at the bottom that said you need to let us know, you need to vote that way.
6 people did.
And that even included if you're on the account and you did not follow the process, you were not allowed to vote. Okay, all right.
And 4 people were
Only
turned.
4 people did.
Would you, as our lawyer, be comfortable arguing that corporations have a vote?
And I want to disagree with the four people. I didn't get to vote, and I own more than 4 companies. So I didn't get to vote my proxies. So that number for 4 is incorrect. I was back there when I asked her. and I own more than 4 corporations. I own more than 4 memberships at this company.
And just as you as an example, James, do you have, are those corporations set up on tax IDs?
Every single one of them's different.
And is your name on it?
Every single one of them.
Is your name on each one of the accounts?
Every single one.
Okay, so okay,
So what I hear it really is, this is like half cooked right now, right? So,
Well, what the issue before you is, do you want us to provide you a draft policy? Or do you want to keep what's going on? I hear that you may want us to clarify it, and we would come back with a policy. But it is fundamentally important for us to know whether it is that you're looking to change the way, and Director Miller said 15 years. I will have to go back and research that. I didn't know that there was a point in the board's history, or in the company's history, that corporations were not allowed to vote, or persons who own more than one company was not allowed to vote more than once.
Might have been 16.
Okay. But at some point in the past, it would be interesting to know what changed that, presumably a discussion like this. And if I, were having to make, opine right here on the fly, I could make that first sentence of Section 1, Article 5 go either way. I could make the argument either way.
typical lawyer, I can
Right.
argue.
And so,
Second sentence says a person, not a business, a person who is in need of services is its member. So, I mean, yes, it could be a person that owns a corporation, but it's still tying it back to people, not corporations.
Well, I think we want to allow account holders that are authorized and have paid their
So
membership.
going back to the same thing.
But do they get
What-
more than one?
What I
But
think
here's-
we
If they
really
pay
need
more
to
than
do
one
is
fee, they should get
have
more
them
than
come
one.
back
Maybe you shouldn't pay more.
with some recommendations, maybe 1 or 2 options,
They have to.
or
So here's what, and I'll leave it at this. Here's the bottom line. If that person came in and paid the $5 fee, okay, he has the right to vote. Because it's a different corporation, it's a different LLC, it's a different FEIN number,
Yeah.
and he's paid the $5.
Doesn't
Whether
matter,
or
it goes
not-
against the bylaws.
It's not against the bylaws. I mean, I've been voting here forever, and I've always had more than one vote up until the time that you guys made a new policy that, I'm sorry, I don't open my mail every single day.
well, it wasn't a new, I mean, it wasn't enforced, but go ahead, Mike.
Yes, sir, I make a motion that if the business is in the name of the person, they're allowed to vote. If the business is not in the name of the person, they follow the current process. That's my motion.
But then you're going back to the same thing where they're having to do double the work. It's a simple line item, add it to the new policy going forward, or the new sheet that says if this person hasn't changed the ownership of this corporation or their vote, however you want to word it, that by September 1st, they don't get to change
All right,
it.
James.
So I'll second that.
Dr. Peavy, you got,
Yes, sir, Mr. President, I would ask that the board allow legal counsel and staff
To
to
draft something.
review all of these issues and these matters, and then come back at the next board meeting with a recommendation for the board to consider. It gives us 30 days to come back and share with you once we've got that information put together, rather than continue on, because clearly we're not going to reach consensus.
We've got
And-
3
and-
different conversations. going
yeah, and I guess my recommendation, I agree with that. But we don't want it to be, we want all members that are eligible to vote, right? We don't want to suppress the vote. But we also want to be fair and equitable that if they are a corporation or if they're not, based on legal counsel's input. But it doesn't need to be encumbered upon staff. It should be the onus and the responsibility
We
of
can certainly
of
take
the
that
members.
into consideration.
I guess that's, I'm kind of looking for head nods from the board that they kind of feel that that's the same thing we would have staff look
How
at.
many business?
That's-
All right, well, we have a motion
We do.
and we had a second.
I think it needs to be tabled until staff comes back with more.
Would you be willing to
Now,
rescind
we
your?
will on
All right.
the table, I'll make a motion to table.
or you can just withdraw it.
I rescind the motion.
Okay,
Motion to table. until staff can come back with recommendations for the board. Because we're way early in
Yeah,
that
we have
process.
10 months.
Yes.
10 months goes quick. Okay, Mark,
Second for the motion to table.
second favor. All in favor of table and let staff do their thing and come back to it with options? All in
So I'd
favor?
like to,
Aye. Sorry.
I have a comment before we do that. So sitting here listening, I'd be willing to say I heard at least 5 different interpretations of what our bylaws say. So I think before we hear options, I would like to hear what our bylaws are legally telling us. Unless the options are, based on what it says now, these are the ways we can go.
I think that's part of the consideration. We would talk to legal to make sure that we've got the right handle on that, and we can come back and make that clear, and then not be options, because it says what it says and it means what it means. And then as far as options for the election, we would come back to it.
So
I
So
definitely.
I agree in general with what you said, Dallas, but the phrase, it says what it says and means what it means, to me is nonsensical in a legal sense.
Well, that's you, but that's why I said we would come back.
And that's why I want Will to come back and say what it means.
Yeah, I will come back, as a threshold matter, the first thing I'll do is come back with a opinion with regards to the issue of membership and whether a person who owns more than one company registered as a member of the company can vote. And I'll lay it out with regards to the bylaws. So that'll be the first thing. And then any policy would stem from that, after y'all, make a decision based on that legal opinion.
And I'm just making the assumption that whatever options would be in writing so that we could see it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was the point of why we had this discussion, because with the staff, we didn't want to start writing something up and presenting it to you without getting your feedback. This feedback has been good, and also because we know we have at least until September, which is when your notice for your next election starts, to get this correct. And it does seem to be something that we need to get correct so that everybody is of one mind, at least at this table, so that then you can go with one voice to your membership and explain it, because there obviously is some confusion, and we need to clear that up.
Okay, well, it's valid that only a limited number of businesses voted, but is that because it was to honor son? Any last for table? Okay. Engineering.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, 2 big items that engineer is working on the month of January going forward is that I&I. That's still a big issue. It's down from where it was significantly a year ago. And the other is the Egglin project. Key projects engineering is both on.
Okay. Any comments on on the information you had in your blouse from the board? Okay, member forum. Mr. Wilcox, please.
I live on Brevard Street, which is one of the streets where you're wanting to clear all of the easements behind half a dozen blocks or so.
Yes, sir.
And my concern is exactly how is this going to happen? I mean, I'm assuming it's a 12-foot easement. I found my pins, had to come back 6 feet to put anything in there to make sure it wasn't in your easement. So now I'm getting these notifications that this easement is going to be cleared. And a month ago, in these neighborhoods I live in, everybody had a fence that was basically in the middle of these easements. So say if somebody wanted to come in and vandalize something or steal something, they would have to come to my yard to get into the neighbor behind me, or vice versa. Now there's going to be essentially a 12-foot easement that is accessible to anybody. And how is that going to be cleared? How is that going to be secured? And from what I got from the letter, the primary reason for this was access to the sewer main, and the fact that there were people in the neighborhood that weren't following the guidelines as far as putting rainwater down their cleanouts. So my clean out is about 15 feet inside my property line, including the easement. So if I'm putting water down my clean out and you've got this 12-foot easement, I'd like to know how specifically are you going to be able to find out that I'm putting rainwater down my easement because there's a 12-foot easement back there now.
Okay, I think once.
And also the security issue. Like I said, there's essentially going to be, in these 6 or 8 blocks, there's going to be a 12-foot alley behind all these backyards. And security, to me, is a pretty serious issue. Like I said, if some kid wanted to get into my backyard, he would have to go through my neighbor's yard to get into my yard to whatever, steal something out of my shop. Now, all they've got to do is go down an easement and they're in my yard.
Couldn't he jump over the front part of the fence?
From
From the street, walk up from the street and jump over the front part of the fence?
Yeah,
Or
he
walk through the
could.
gate?
The point is there, it's a utility
The
easement.
point is he would have to be in somebody's front yard to do that. Now, let's just say everybody builds a fence back on the easement. So there's going to be a 6-foot fence in my backyard, a 6-foot fence in my neighbor's backyard that's 12 feet away. So I would think a person could get there really easy without being seen. And
It's still your property though, so if you see any kids walking down through there, you can say, hey, you can't walk through here, this is private
so the
property.
easement is my property?
It is your property.
So it's a utility easement so we can get to the sewer lines and it is
You just
illegal.
can't block it off.
Right, and
Because
I
it's an easement,
understand
you
that.
can't Block it off so that we
And
can
it is
build.
illegal.
And another question is, I've lived there for quite a few years. How many times, just say in the last 10 years, has the sewer main had to be dug up for repairs?
That's not the only issue, sir, and I'm going to actually direct you to Dr. PV, the CEO, so
If
you,
you have a list of concerns that you've stated now, if you want to send me an email directly, I can address that. I'll go through and review them, as we do with all concerns from the members, and
Sure.
talk to legal counsel as well.
Yeah, and I'm not the only one. I mean, there's a lot of people I've talked to that have the same concerns.
but you're also not the only utility easement in Highway by the
Right.
Sea as well.
Yeah, I know there are a
So
lot
they
of
all
other
have those.
utility easements,
Yeah.
but in my particular situation, all of the easements are in the front except for the sewer main.
Right.
And I'm just kind of going, why now? Why, and I'm unaware
Well, I can tell you-
of these easements having to be repaired in the 15 or more years that I've lived here. And now all of a sudden, everybody's got to go through a considerable amount of time, effort, and expense to give you guys the access when I'm not sure the access is even needed. Because if your primary concern is rainwater going down cleanouts, you're still at ground zero. You're not going to be able to find out who's putting their rainwater down the cleanout, even though you have
Sir,
access.
if we have access to the utility easement, our crews, I think, will, but I'm going to,
Yes,
Dr.
I would
Peeble,
ask
they
if
have
he has these concerns, we'll give him my contact information, send me the email.
Sure. Because from my perspective, the only way you could find out if somebody was using their cleanout would be to put some internet access meter in the easement prior upstream of the cleanout. Otherwise, how are you going to know somebody is putting rainwater down a cleanout? And if that's the case, I mean, like I said, I've lived here a long time. There are definitely rain events where somebody might want to do that. But in the grand scheme of things, during a year's amount of time, how much excess water actually goes to the Holly Navarre water system? And what is that expense relative to the expense of clearing all these easements, keeping these maintained, and securing these easements?
I will say, I'll let you get on to Dr. Dallas there, but anything that goes into the sewer line, that the wastewater treatment plant has to process that isn't effluent, that isn't wastewater, increases your prices and increases the
I
volume.
understand.
So if you get
I
with
mean,
Dr. Peavy, I'm sure he'll be able to answer
I
all
worked
your
at a
questions.
plant that did 40 million gallons a day, so
Got
I know all about this.
it. All right, thanks for your time, sir.
Okay.
Is it Mr. Mason? That's all right.
I'm over on Brevard. I'm across the street from Ken. Like, you know, you told us this is gonna happen with the easement, which is great. We're gonna make it work. Do we have any kind of time update? We were told 30 to 45 days. We're pushing 45 days. I haven't seen anything coming out. I have a pool, so now I've got to secure the pool because my neighbor took his fence down. That was right on the property line. So now but again, I'm not putting anything back into place because I'm not sure how much you're going to tear up of that easement to get things going. Because I have, between my neighbor and myself, behind us, we have 20 70-foot trees sitting back there that are, according to you, are coming out. That's a concern for me because I've been in a yard before up north where we had professionals take out trees and it's a mess. And I don't want these trees coming down through my shed that's out back. I don't want big holes in my yard. I just want some kind of update, number one, as to when it's going to happen and how are they going to do this?
If you want to send me your information, I'll be glad to respond to your concerns and questions.
I appreciate that. Like I say, now, I don't want to put you on the spot. Any update as to when? Any update as to when this is going to start? I don't mind. I mean, if it's got to happen, it's got to happen. I mean, I'm just more concerned about the logistics of it all back there. Because I'm up against putting in a new fence at my cost because now I can't share my neighbor's fence that was back there over my pool. So that's a safety concern. But again, I'm not putting a new fence up until you guys drop these 70-foot trees because I'm waiting for you to put a tree through my new fence.
Well, I'm sure we're not going to do that. And I can tell you that the timeline is within the next 30 days, depending upon where your address is in relation to the total amount of work that's got. So if you'll send me that information, certainly I'll respond.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Any alibis?
How can I get information? Just email it.
So ladies, bring it to you now.
Board members, any last comments, any last concerns? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Mike? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Just a reminder, board training, February 25th
Oh.
from 7:30 to 3:30.